Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would talk about the up and coming fight that is going to be happening, because, of course, between that of the two heavyweight champions of the world. And, of course, for those of you that either may be new to boxing or for those of you that just don't remember, this, of course, is going to be the fight between that of Tyson the Gypsy King Fury and, of course, that of Mr. Oleksandr Usyk. And this is going to be the first time, at least of course, unless this fight ends up in a draw, this is going to be the first time that a heavyweight champion has been completely unified, I believe. Ever since really about 20 years ago, I believe. Ever since that of the British fighter Lennox Lewis. Now the question will be is it going to come around full circle and go back to the Brits, with that of Tyson Fury, or is Oleksandr Usyk, who of course is going to be the smaller man by quite a bit, at least overall in terms of the pounds, and even a little bit in terms of the length. Could he potentially pull this off? And if you were going to ask me who I believe is going to win this fight or was going to win this fight probably about a year ago, I would have said Tyson Fury more than likely with flying colors or at least relatively dominantly. But after his most recent performance over that of Francis Ngannou, it does leave a little bit of questions that do need to be answered, such as where really is Tyson Fury at this point in time in his career? Is he still the same fighter as what he once was? Was that maybe just a fluke against Francis Ngannou because he didn't take him seriously? In my personal view, Tyson Fury, looking at him in that fight, I don't think he took Francis Ngannou very seriously. I don't think that his stamina or him being in as good a shape as what he needs to be. Now, it's a little bit tough to see overall how good Fury really is in terms of shape because he always has a flabby build. He's always going to have a flabby build. But Tyson Fury, of course, is one of those guys to where he may look chunky and he may look fatter or flabbier, but he has some of the best stamina in all of boxing. Like when I see Tyson Fury at his best, I don't think there's ever been a fight where I've actually seen him get tired, other than the Francis Ngannou fight. So once again, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes from here. And of course, Usyk is hands down, in my view, going to be the most skilled opponent that Tyson Fury has ever fought. Now, of course, a lot of people are stating that if these two guys were the same size, it wouldn't even be relatively close. I mean, you can state that as a point if you want to, but to be quite honest, if we take a look at a lot of the heavyweights within the history, like if even we take a look at Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, George Foreman, Mike Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, how many of those heavyweights really were as talented as certain guys in the lower weight classes? Were they really as great or as fundamentally sound always as the guys like a Floyd Mayweather Jr. or Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker or maybe a Manny Pacquiao or a Roberto Duran or a Sugar Ray Leonard or someone of a sort? I mean, Muhammad Ali, of course, was decently fundamentally sound, but there's also times where he was a little bit defensively flawed. Ali actually gets credited for being a great defensive fighter because, of course, he could fight very great on the back foot. He could really fight great in whatever way that he wanted to. But the truth is about Muhammad Ali is that he was not a defensive wizard, at least when you compare him to that of a Mayweather or a Whitaker, or even if we're comparing him to certain fighters like Canelo Alvarez. Muhammad Ali got knocked down multiple times in his career. Oftentimes he would have his hands way too low, when it came down to it, because he could rely on that speed and he could rely on his athleticism because he was so quick compared to everybody else. But Muhammad Ali was not a guy that, if you talk about his fundamentalism, at least in terms of the defensive department, it's not like Muhammad Ali was a Floyd Mayweather. He wasn't. It just is what it is. And the same thing kind of applies to that of Tyson Fury. I think that Tyson Fury, for his size, is an exceptional boxer. Is he going to look probably quite as polished as some of the smaller fighters? Probably not. But what fighter do you know pretty much within the past 20 years, even the great Lennox Lewis, looks as polished as some of the lighter weight class fighters? It's just not usually going to happen. But, every once in a while, of course, there's an exception to the rule. I think that Lennox Lewis was somewhat an exception to the rule. I think that Mike Tyson, to a degree, Evander Holyfield, maybe Riddick Bowe, Muhammad Ali, to a degree, and some other guys. And Tyson Fury, I also believe, is a little bit of an exception to that rule as well. I believe that Tyson Fury at his best, that especially for his size and for a heavyweight fighter, that he's an exceptional fighter. Tyson Fury, so far for his era, in my view, has proved to be clearly the best heavyweight of his generation because every single time he's stepped up in class, he's always dominated that opponent. And I never got this narrative of Tyson Fury, oh, he's going to duck Usyk and all this other stuff. When has Tyson Fury really ever showed us that he was going to duck anybody? Now, the thing is that I'll say is that There was a couple of times where the negotiations fell through that I thought maybe it was a little bit more on Fury's fault. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, other than that, Fury has always shown that he's willing to fight the guys out there. He tried to fight AJ Anthony Joshua, but the Deontay Wilder trilogy ended up getting within the way. He fought Deontay Wilder on 3 separate occasions. He fought Vladimir Klitschko. He fought Dillian Whyte. Yes, we can state that Tyson Fury doesn't have quite the deepest of resumes, maybe if you want to compare him to other heavyweight greats or fighters, such as AJ Anthony Joshua. But Tyson Fury has fought 2 of the guys that would be looked at as major threats throughout this generation, both Deontay Wilder and Vladimir Klitschko. Usyk is going to be another one of those guys. So if Tyson Fury can beat Usyk and then defeat that of AJ Anthony Joshua, it's going to be pretty hard to argue against that Tyson Fury at least has a debate as the greatest heavyweight of all time. But anyways, let's get into it. Let's see overall what the SkySports analyzers have to say about this fight. And I'm going to give my final fight breakdown and my final fight analyzation and my final fight prediction of the super fight and the unification heavyweight matchup this weekend.
The most skillful heavyweights are battling.
Uppercut from Tyson Fury.
Double keep up! Usyk! The fight for the undisputed heavyweight championship between Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk. What does that mean to crown a undisputed champion of the entire world in the heavyweight division?
Well, it would mean that boxing has its first undisputed heavyweight champion since what, Lennox Lewis?
It means...
That's actually a very interesting question about what this would mean for both fighters. Because if Tyson Fury ends up winning this fight, in my view, unless he loses to AJ Anthony Joshua or someone else, that pretty much cements him as the greatest heavyweight of his era, and in my view, debatably the greatest heavyweight of all time. He would at least be right there with Lennox Lewis and some other guys, and in my view, he would also have to be there with Marciano and Muhammad Ali. In my view, Joe Louis is not really in the conversation as the greatest heavyweight of all time because I don't think that his level of competition was quite as up to par, in my personal view. But, he would be right there with those guys. Fury, in my view, is already a top 10 heavyweight of all time. Because when you talk about heavyweight fighters, in my view, when you talk about the creme de la creme, the best of the best, you're talking about Muhammad Ali, you're talking about Lennox Lewis, and you're talking about Rocky Marciano. And then if you're talking about the league below them, in my view, you're talking about Joe Louis, you're talking about George Foreman, maybe Joe Frazier, maybe a Riddick Bowe if you wanted to put him in there, and Evander Holyfield, certain people like that. I may be forgetting some others, I'd have to take a look at it. And then, of course, in my view, you kind of have Tyson Fury in the middle between those two. Right now, he would be, in my view, in that second category. But if he ends up winning this fight, there's going to be a great argument for him to be in that number 1 pound-for-pound spot of all time for the heavyweight champions. There's just going to be, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree, but you cannot be undefeated, beat basically almost every big heavyweight of your era, when it comes down to it, be clearly the most skilled out of all of them, and then be undefeated and win every single belt in your era and not be in that conversation. I'm sorry, it's just not possible. It is what it is. Now, what does it mean for Oleksandr Usyk if he ends up winning this fight? What it would mean for him, in my view, is that he would be the greatest cruiserweight to move up to that of the heavyweight division of all time, clearly, because Fury is a greatly skilled boxer. And this is kind of going to be, like another version of Riddick Bowe versus Evander Holyfield. But if Usyk ends up winning this, in my view, he would have to be remembered not only as one of the greater heavyweights, but he would have to be remembered as greater than certain fighters, certainly than like Mike Tyson or Evander Holyfield or Riddick Bowe or certain guys like that. And that might even jump him into the conversation with, certain fighters that might be in the top 20 of all time. It might put him there, certainly at least within my top 50 to top 30 of all time, at least within that conversation. But anyways.
That a king is born, and there's no denying.
All-time great. What a fight. Unbelievable.
It's been a long time since in the heavyweight division we had the man who beat the man who beat the man, and we will finally have that in May.
Of all the things boxing needs, it's not just undisputed champions, but it's finally an undisputed heavyweight champion. When boxing has an undisputed king of the heavyweights, it is a better sport, far better sport.
I definitely believe that it makes it a little bit more interesting, so we'll see what happens.
There's no back and forth on who you think is the best. You will know who's the best at the end of this fight.
I'm the best. I'm just defending my bestness again. Usyk! You're next, You're next!
have said that we are entering a new golden era of the heavyweight division.
It's the size of Tyson Fury, that skill, that athleticism inside the ring.
Here comes the champ, and that combination punching, and Schwartz goes down.
Against Oleksandr.
You know, one thing that in my view that Tyson Fury really has to tighten up in this fight, if there was one flaw in my view that Tyson Fury kind of showed in the Francis Ngannou fight, sometimes Tyson Fury, a little bit like Muhammad Ali, he keeps his hands down a little bit too low. And you can tell that he relies on his athleticism and especially his height and reach. He's much better defensively and just fundamentally than someone like a Deontay Wilder, who you can tell relies on his reach and his power way too entirely. But Fury, you can still tell, relies a little bit too much on it because at times, you know, he will, you know, stick his lead hand out there, but, you know, sometimes his head won't move quite enough so you can get a shot over the top. Now, once he figures out that you're trying to do that, his head, of course, will move a little bit more, but he's got to be careful, you know, because Tyson Fury, one thing also that I noticed is that Tyson Fury kind of wings that right hand out there. He can advertise it a little bit. And on top of that, you know, sometimes he can be a bit too square with it. He's not turning with the punch and having the shoulder kind of protect his chin. So he's got to be a little bit careful with that because that was one of the reasons why he got knocked down by Ngannou. He kind of just winged it out there and the right side of his face was completely open and it left for Ngannou to counter him perfectly. So Fury is going to have to be quick. He's going to have to be deliberate. And in my view, don't give Usyk openings within this fight. Don't play around with this guy. And, you know, overall, it's going to be interesting to see what type of strategy Fury takes. Is he mainly going to be on the back foot the whole entire time? Or is he going to go a little bit forward? I assume more than likely that both are going to happen. But Fury, one thing I'll state about him is this. Fury knows the secret of how to win fights. And what that means is that sometimes you need to box the fighter and sometimes you need to fight the boxer. Fury realizes that when a guy is a little bit too quick and sometimes a little bit too swift for him, that he's going to have to try to break that guy down. And that's something that we'll see if Usyk ends up also learning the art of, because I don't think he's really ever been in a fight to where he's been in a serious threat of actually losing. And he does have a very similar style to that of a Vasily Lomachenko. They are trained, I believe, by that of the same coach, by Papa Lomachenko. And it's going to be interesting because one thing I will say about Lomachenko, even though I think he's a great fighter, if you can push back Lomachenko and if you can show him that you're not intimidated by his offense and that if you're not intimidated overall by his athleticism and his angles, and if you get that power to him early, especially to the body, because both Lomachenko and Usyk, they have a high guard and they don't find really a great way to avoid punches, especially to the torso or the midsection. When it comes down to it, you can kind of scare them off a little bit. But I'll give Usyk credit. So far, he appears to have a better defensive plan for that than what a Lomachenko did. But this is really going to be the revealer about how great Usyk actually is. So we'll see.
Oleksandr Usyk, who's coming in with so much momentum.
I love Fury and Usyk because they're both entertaining. They're both great talents, and they've been talking enough smack about this for long enough. I'd like to see it finally already.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go.
This is 10 times easier than any other dye. Tired of gray hair? Try this.
Let's go. Let's go. Scene one.
Turn it around, sorry.
You too, David. Take one.
Record and where you fight out of.
I'm Tyson Fury. What was everyone? Wait.
That'd be great.
Love this.
First time this century, we were waiting for that person to call himself the number one.
You know, I'll state this very quickly in just analyzing this. Tyson Fury, a lot of the times, is a type of fighter that really tries to get in someone's head. And a lot of the times, I think that it can kind of work. I think that he got in the head of Vladimir Klitschko a little bit, especially once Klitschko saw the maneuverability and the true size of Tyson Fury. He just had no idea what was going on in there. Like, Klitschko was so used to fighting guys that were shorter than him or stiff as a brick. And then once he got in the ring against this Fury dude, and he thought that eventually he was going to clock him, and then eventually he saw the movement and the feints and the speed and just the pure size of him, he was like, wow, this dude, like, not only is this guy bigger than me, which I've never seen before, but he moves overall like no other fighter that I've been in the ring with before, and he can reach me, you know, sooner overall than what some other fighters can. So Fury, once you kind of get in the ring with him, You know, some people take a look at him and they look at him as like, you know, he's not that good. But it's very hard to fight someone like a Tyson Fury because he's just so lengthy and he's, you know, at times a little bit awkward. And on top of that, he's very shrewd. He's a very smart fighter at his best. But, you know, one thing I will state is this. I don't know if Fury can really get inside Usyk's head. The only way that he's going to get inside Usyk's head is by battering him and overall making sure that he's hurt within this fight and showing Usyk that you're not just going to get on the inside. You're not going to get past my lead hand. I'm going to hurt you and I'm going to punish you when you try to get on the inside. And then on top of that, I'm going to go to your body. You know, if you try to play games with me, you know, if you try too much to get on the inside, I'm going to really show you my strength and I'm going to really show you my size and that true heavyweight level of power. That's what Fury is going to have to do. And on top of that, also lean on that of Oleksandr Usyk in the exchanges, move him around. You're going to be, I'm guessing, at the very least 40 pounds heavier than Oleksandr Usyk. But it does look like Fury lost a decent amount of weight for this fight. So I assume that maybe he's going to come in here around 260, but we'll see.
The unification.
Like most good things in boxing, you have to wait an inordinately long time.
Tyson Fury, Oleksandr Usyk. They are going to meet for the undisputed heavyweight crown on February the 17th, 2024.
You wait forever. Full starts. Dreams shattered. Dreams broken. Dates announced. Dates dragged away years and years.
Tyson Fury talking about the eye injury that he had that put him out of the last fight in about 2 weeks.
At first, I was a little bit depressed for the first day or so, but after...
You know, I'm going to be very interested to see how the LDBC and new media react to this. Because we always know that they're trying to push Gervonta Tank Davis or Terrence Crawford or whoever they need to push in terms of their favorites, black fighters or PBC fighters, depending on the channel, of either being the face of boxing or in the top 5 pound per pound or being clear undisputed. I wonder if any of them are going to debate that Oleksandr Usyk is possibly the #1 pound per pound fighter if he ends up winning this fight. And I'm telling you that Dante, for example, and some of these other channels, all they're going to state is that if Usyk beats Tyson Fury, that he beat a cheater and that he beat a guy overall that really was never that good in the first place, and that if Fury wins this fight, that he should have won because he was so much bigger. So the LDBC and new media, at least certain channels like Dante's Boxing Nation and Aki TV and Boxing Ego, they're really not going to give that much credit to either winner either way because they don't have any stock in these guys. The fighter that they put all their stock in, at least for the heavyweight division, he's gone now. He's irrelevant, Deontay Wilder. All right, you know, at least mainly irrelevant compared to these guys and that of Anthony Joshua. So the heavyweight division, the reason why they don't talk about it anymore, and the reason overall why Boxing Ego in the last video that I reviewed of him, which I believe was months ago now, you know, when the fight was canceled between Fury and Usyk, Boxing Ego looked so depressed in that video and just uncaring to even talk about this. The reason why is because his dreams were shattered. They don't give a shit about who wins this fight because they realize that whoever wins this fight is debatably, it pretty much is negative both ways because if Fury ends up winning this fight, there's going to be a bunch of people that debate Fury as the greatest heavyweight of all time. And that's going to depress them because, once again, they have an inferiority complex. And in order for them to feel adequate, they need, the majority of the all-time great black fighters to be top 10, pound for pound of all time. So that's why, once again, they go after Canelo, Fury, Lomachenko in a way so hard because they realize that if those guys are remembered as the best fighter of their generation, that eventually they're going to be talked about in the top 10 and top 20 of all time. They can't have that because their inferiority complex, it won't allow them to do that.
It's like all things in life.
And of course, if Usyk ends up winning this fight, he could very much debatably be the undisputed #1 pound per pound fighter. Because how many fighters do we know out there right now that's defeated a clear A-grade, great level champion that would be about like 40 pounds bigger than them and out-lengthen them by several inches? I don't think that any other fighter would be able to do that, so it is what it is. Now, of course, this is a heavyweight division. It works a little bit differently. And then on top of that, Usyk would also become undisputed completely in 2 separate weight classes. So this fight is going to be a fight that the LDBC and new media that they're really not going to be interested in because they don't give a shit about who really wins this fight. It's going to be bad either way.
I realise God's timing is impeccable, perfect. It's not late, it's not early, but it's bang on time. So it wasn't my time to fight for the championship then.
A year and a half later, it's going down. For both these gentlemen to get inside this ring and show the world who's the best heavyweight on planet Earth.
Right hand, left hand, in the corner. Big fist blasted away.
Oh, big shots by Usyk.
Do you believe this?
On May 18th, in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the unified world heavyweight champion Oleksandr Usyk puts his WBA, WBO and IBF heavyweight titles on the line against the WBC and long-reigning lineal heavyweight champion Tyson Fury.
I've been watching this fight since the night that Usyk showed up and Fury serenaded Bob Arum. I thought we were going to get it then.
And then I will give him what a real heavyweight looks like.
There's been a lot
They may call him Alexander, but I am Philip the Barbarian.
I've been wanting this fight since Oleksandr Usyk decided to move up to the heavyweight division because he was the undisputed cruiserweight champion. He done that in such impressive fashion.
Where's some killers in that division? He dominated. He didn't beat him. He dominated it. That
Usyk's run at cruiserweight, in my view, is actually a little bit underrated. You know, like I remember I was reviewing certain videos. Once again, I mainly review that of the LDBC and new media. But even ESPN and, of course, quote-unquote old media, if you want to call them that, they will hype up certain fighters as well and try to make the division seem a little bit stronger than what they actually are. But not a lot of people really talk about Usyk's cruiserweight run. I'm not saying that it was necessarily an A+ level division, but the amount of people that he went through, it's a little bit underrated. Not only did he get after Tony Bellew when he was probably at the best point in his career and improved a little bit as a fighter. Now, I never thought that Tony Bellew was a super great fundamental fighter, but maybe at that time, if you wanted to debate him as A-, you could. But he also got through Marco Huck. He got through the undefeated Polish fighter that knocked out Marco Huck, I believe. You know, whatever that dude's name was. And he also beat Michael Hunter within that weight class. He also beat Murat Gassiev, who knocked out the undefeated Junior Dorticos, I believe, the Cuban knockout artist. Like, Usyk ran through everybody in that weight class, and he pretty much dominated them and thoroughly embarrassed them all. And, of course, Maris Bradis, you know, I believe is his name. I think the Norwegian or the Swedish or, you know, wherever the hell he's from, you know, one of those places. You know, Usyk was, you know, not, you know, he pretty much tore through that division. And then, of course, you know, when he ended up defeating that of AJ Anthony Joshua, that, in my view, immediately put him in my top 5 pound for pound because AJ at the time for me was a top 10 pound for pound fighter. I understand that on a lot of lists he probably wouldn't have been, but the amount of resume that AJ has for that weight class is no joke. You're talking about a guy that has wins over Povetkin, you know, still a, you know, an older Klitschko, but still a decent version, someone who was very competitive. It was a great fight, and AJ was able to pull out at the end of the day, so I'd at least give him an A- win for that, if not even an A-grade win. You know, when it comes down to it, he, of course, was able to beat Joseph Parker, Dillian White, you know, I believe, you know, what are some of the other guys? I mean, you know, not even counting some of the other champions out he fought, like Jermaine Franklin or Robert Elenius, some of the other guys, Otto Wallin, guys that would be top 20 contenders. And then there's probably some other ones that I'm missing. Andrew Ruiz, Charles Martin at one point in time. You know, there's some other ones that I'm missing for sure, probably there. But AJ's resume at the heavyweight division is probably the deepest out of any other heavyweight. Unless maybe you want to argue for Fury, of course, because at least he does have a win over Klitschko when he was top 5 pound for pound, and a win over the former undefeated Deontay Wilder. And, of course, the win over Dillian White when he was looked at as pretty much at the best and, you know, most refined at that point in time in his career. But, yeah.
Probably right after Tyson Fury defeated Dillian White, that was when the fight should have been made. That was when I feel that Fury was at his absolute best.
Dillian White has some of the ugliest boxing skills that I've ever seen in my life. Like his front foot is all wrong. Is completely straightforward instead of turned a little bit, you know, overall to the right. And then on top of that, you know, Dillian White, like he just every time he moves his arms, the dude looks like his arms are just made of jello. Like this dude looks like he really doesn't know how to punch straight. To be quite honest with you, I really don't know how the hell he ended up defeating Joseph Parker and some of these other guys, even like a 40-year-old Alexander Povetkin. I mean, I guess he has good enough boxing ability, but he's just so sloppy.
But it is going to be my time on May the 18th, so I'm really preparing fantastic for it.
When Fury is right, he is the best heavyweight in the world by far.
If you don't know who the I am, you shouldn't be the motherfucking here right now.
Well, I do agree that Tyson Fury more than likely is the best heavyweight by far when he's at his best, but you know what? Let's also hold that a little bit because Fury has 2 more tests to get through. He has that of Oleksandr Usyk, and he also has that of AJ Anthony Joshua. And potentially, I mean, if he pretty much gets through those 2, in my view, there's really not going to be much else left for him to prove. But it would also be nice to see him fight someone like an Andrew Ruiz or maybe someone else like that to cap off his career. Those are probably the 4, the 3 fights that I would want to see Fury in next, and then possibly retire. I would like to see him in against Usyk. Of course, if he ends up losing to Usyk or, losing to him twice, then of course it's going to end up a bit differently. But, if he ends up beating Usyk, then AJ, I would maybe like to see him fight Andrew Ruiz. But I just don't know if Fury's going to really fight after that. I think he has 2 more opponents on his mind, and I think that that's pretty much going to be a career for him.
How's that for an introduction?
He is a character beyond all characters in sports.
You get any American, any British fighter I've ever fought in nearly 20 years as boxing, no one has ever competed with me unspeaking.
But Tyson Fury, when you got big talk, we expect big walk.
But you're not messing with a mediocre heavyweight. You're messing with the best man on the planet.
Та багато в неї якості є як бійця. Він високий, гарно відчуває дистанцію, балакає багато.
Look at it! 15-stone little midget beats a bodybuilder. Well, I ain't a bodybuilder, sucker. I'm gonna write you off.
Пугує людей. Мене складно налякати.
What does Fury bring to this fight?
Is that good? What happens if I have tickets to it?
What does Fury bring to this fight?
But Tyson Fury is among the most complete fighters in boxing, let alone that he's 6'9", 265.
When he comes forward and lands that cracking right hand.
And just like that, Tyson Fury...
Now, at that time, he kind of threw the right hand a little bit more properly. It was a little bit more turned. But that time when he threw the right hand against Ngannou, it was completely from overall the shoulder. It looked like, and he looked like he just kind of threw it in there a little bit half-assed. And of course, that left Ngannou, who was a little bit sharper and more knowledgeable of the boxing game than what Fury predicted. It left him wide open for an overhand left hook. So Fury's going to have to be very careful. But that's also going to be interesting because I'm not quite sure if Usyk is going to have the level of power unless he's just constantly able to get within Tyson Fury's range. I'm not really quite sure if he's going to have the level of power really to threaten Tyson Fury as badly, but we'll see. And of course, who knows? Fury may not have the level of power to quite threaten Usyk. We'll see. Maybe Usyk would just completely walk him down. Do I see that happening? Probably not, but we'll see. Of course, he was able to be in the ring against probably a stronger puncher in AJ Anthony Joshua. But while AJ Anthony Joshua is probably a stronger puncher, he does not have the skills nor the boxing IQ of a Tyson Fury, really nowhere near. I was taking a look at that fight the other day, and AJ Anthony Joshua, at least in those fights, he had no idea how to use his lead hand efficiently. He knows how to use it against fighters that are a little bit more stiff and a little bit more guys that are going to fall into his game plan. Now, to be fair, in his most recent fights with Ben Davidson, that last one against Otto Wallin, I thought that he used it a lot better. But Usyk was killing him in terms of the lead hand game. He was slipping underneath Anthony Joshua's jab, and Joshua would throw the jab out there, and he just really had no variance with it. Like, it looked like he was either trying to hit Usyk every time, or he was not snapping it back. It was very lazy. It was very, overall, advertised. And Usyk, of course, being as movable and as quick as what he can be, and Anthony Joshua staying within the mid-range, which plays right into Usyk's game, he pretty much got thoroughly outboxed, and he had no answers whatsoever. So, Fury, in my view, he has a much better chance of outboxing Usyk, at least in terms of the jab game, because Usyk has an excellent jab, but Tyson Fury has an excellent jab as well. AJ, at his best, he has a decent jab, but it's not great.
Turns the tables and lands a right hand at distance.
That is something to behold.
Not only that, he's a heavyweight the likes of which we have never seen before.
He's almost at a different level.
There goes Deontay Wilder, the man overall that apparently was wore down overall by his suit, wore down his legs, apparently was drugged by his former trainer, apparently was a victim of Tyson Fury putting feather dusters or egg weights in the glove. Apparently overall apparently overall was cheated by the referee and the whole boxing commission. All that dumb shit.
Fury was raised a fighter, raised in this sport. That gives him a kind of muscle memory that unfortunately few heavyweights have today, with the exception.
Right, but both of these fighters are raised in the sport, and I think that he's about to say that. Both Usyk and Fury have pretty much been doing this ever since they've been children. I think that Fury maybe started at the age of 10. I don't know when Usyk started, but I'm guessing that it probably was even younger than that.
Oleksandr Usyk,
the former undisputed cruiserweight champion, turned it on in the middle rounds and closed the show in spectacular fashion.
Я не тільки коли став абсолютним чемпіоном в крузервейті, я кожного дня, коли просипаюсь, молюсь Господу Богу і вірю в те, що я можу перемагати.
When Oleksandr Usyk was the cruiserweight champion of the world, he became undisputed because it was night after night in his opponent's hometown, beating them and showing his skills.
Do you believe what we're seeing? Talk about making a statement.
Тому що я сказав сам собі, що коли я стану абсолютним чемпіоном в крузервейті, я піду в хевівейт. Тому що мій тато показував мені бої.
What Usyk's done.
You know, for those of you guys that are familiar with the channel of Aki TV, just to show you overall how fucking biased and much of an idiot this dude is, this guy actually had AJ Anthony Joshua winning the Oleksandr Usyk fight in the rematch. He also had Luke Campbell and Lomachenko both winning 6 rounds in their fight. So this dude, like, like I always tell people this, they always love to go on these, like, things about, well, we can't count Canelo's win over Lara or Golovkin because they're allegedly controversial. But then when it comes to their favorite fighters that they're trying to promote, all of a sudden there's no controversial wins. You know, so it's like, you can tell that these guys are so full of shit.
In moving up to heavyweight is really extraordinary.
Наш найважкого дивізіону, коли я був пацаном, хлопцем, і це можливість, це королівська вага, тому що я вірю.
Oleksandr Usyk putting on the opponent to the leg time. Buckle the legs. Buckle the legs. The champ is in real trouble here in round 3.
Since he beat Anthony Joshua twice, the level of confidence that he's coming in with, the fact that he's growing into a legitimate heavyweight.
Я продовжую в її вірити.
Usyk, we knew he was great coming in. He's better than we thought. He brings a tremendous amount of skill, footwork, great timing, and an unbelievable engine.
Usyk hit you with punches you don't see coming, frustrate you to the point that you're in position to get hit with one shot that essentially slaps you on the chin and snaps your will from you.
And mentally, he is...
I would have loved to have seen a prime Holyfield versus a prime Usyk. That would have been very interesting. I think that Holyfield probably would have been the better athlete, especially in terms of punching power. But Usyk, in my view, would have probably had him in terms of the defensive category and probably also a little bit in terms of the movement. And Holyfield wasn't a bad mover, but sometimes he would take a little bit too much punishment for his own good, you know. But that would have been an interesting fight.
So strong because of what's going on back home in his homeland.
Or Usyk versus Mike Tyson. That would have been interesting. You know, whenever Mike Tyson is brought up, you know, people always say all this stuff about, oh, Mike Tyson would destroy every heavyweight today and all this other stuff. Well, Mike was a very talented fighter, but let's also keep it funky here for a minute. Let's just keep it 100 and real. Mike Tyson was known for pretty much losing to every fighter that ever put him through adversity. I mean, other than Donovan Ruddock, what fighter did Mike Tyson really beat that put him through major adversity? I mean, you know, name me one. Because he didn't beat Lennox Lewis. He didn't beat Evander Holyfield. You know, he didn't beat Buster Douglas when Buster Douglas figured out game plan against him. Like, who did he really ever beat unless they were completely intimidated by him or really not a true A-grade level fighter at that time? It's like, I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
Гарно. Я дуже вдячний Господу Богу за те, що я народився саме в цій країні, те, що я її представляю, і те, що я піднімаю прапор України по всьому світу.
He really is fighting with the entire country on his back and the motivation of Ukraine being with him. And I think you can never underestimate that.
It's about Ukraine. It's about his country.
Courtney, this all-in-one money system from Credit Karma plays all the hits.
Can it find me a credit card?
About his country. And he brings that passion
into battle.
He's a great fighter. He's an extraordinary craftsman. He knows what he's doing, and he's psychologically tough. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of Lomachenko-trained fighters.
It's really a special fighter, and I don't.
Well, you know, and not to try to criticize Lomachenko too much here, but to be quite honest with you, I thought Lomachenko, you know, I thought that he could have done a little bit more in both the Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney fights. Yes, those guys were clearly bigger than him, but I thought that he could have done even a little bit more in terms of making those fights more winnable. So will we see a similar pattern with Oleksandr Usyk, to where if he can't find his regular angles or find overall, you know, his distance or his boxing plan, that he'll start to retreat and kind of quit? I mean, we'll see. And I'm not stating that Lomachenko necessarily quit, but, you know, just having, you know, just starting way too late and then bitch, moan, and complain about, you know, overall how the fight didn't go his way, you know, when he really didn't start fighting until the second half of the fight. We'll see. But I expect a little bit more from Usyk. And I like Lomachenko as a fighter. I do. You know, you know, I thought him versus Haney was a fight that could have went either way. But Lomachenko should have realized that he was not going to be the A-side within that fight, you know, and that he was going to have to really press on the action. And I thought that he could have done even a little bit more in terms of trying to win that fight. But we'll see.
I mean to overplay the idea of this guy going up and shaking the heavyweight division up. But it's in play when you have this type of skill set in that type of body.
He's going to make Fury work harder than he's ever had to work in his entire career in any fight, including the Klitschko fight.
And there's another straight left from Usyk.
Well, Fury really didn't work super hard in the Klitschko fight, to be quite honest with you. I mean, he was constantly moving in that fight, but to be real with you, Vladimir Klitschko really didn't provide Tyson Fury with any challenges whatsoever. Like, he was just so bewildered by what Tyson Fury was able to do in the ring, and just as, you know, this 6'9" dude that was able to move better than any of the opponents that he had ever seen, and he just wasn't able to reach him. And then on top of that, he was clearly afraid of what was coming at him. So it's like, Klitschko really, to be quite honest with you, he really didn't put Tyson Fury through much adversity. Like, Deontay Wilder, in my view, of course, is not quite the boxer of what a Vladimir Klitschko is. But Deontay Wilder always usually gave him a little bit of a tougher fight, because at least Deontay Wilder, at least for some of those fights, knew what he was and knew what he had to do in order to win, which is fight at his best strengths. Klitschko, in my view, you know, he had a very tough time getting in on Fury.
Constantly in motion. He's able to transition from offense to defense.
He's not a small heavyweight by historical standards, but he is small by today's standards.
Now in this era of the super heavyweights, if you will, like Anthony Joshua 6'6", like Deontay Wilder 6'7", like Tyson Fury at 6'9".
We have weight divisions for a reason, and me being an encyclopedia on boxing, and I've studied every heavyweight cruiserweight that's ever lived. When the cruiserweights step up to the big boys, usually they get found wanting.
All the talk about Usyk being too small for a heavyweight. He looks the part right now, coming in at over 220 pounds.
There's a saying in boxing that a great big man, more times than none, beats a great small man. We shall see. There's no doubt that Usyk...
Yes, and Tyson Fury, in my view, if he's going to keep at least the same opinion within my mind, that eventually he could be debated, at least within the conversation, as the greatest heavyweight of all time, he is going to have to win this fight. Because I don't care how skilled Usyk is. When you outreach your opponent by several inches, you know, at least I believe that Fury has about an 85-inch reach. If I'm wrong about that, someone correct me. Maybe it's less than that. Maybe it's around 83 or something. I don't know. You know, but when you outreach your opponent, and on top of that, you have a decent weight advantage, and you're supposed to be looked at as a clear A-grade level fighter, yeah, you should win this fight. So we'll see.
It's going to be undersized, but it's the skill level that really makes it intriguing. That's what really makes this compelling as a fight, and I'm looking forward to it.
He says, I don't think about Fury. I simply just need to meet him in the ring.
Good fighter, you know, I've got a tough challenge in front of me.
That's going to be the punch right there that Usyk, I think, is going to be looking for at times, for Fury to overextend that right. So it's going to be up to Fury to be defensively responsible. Don't fuck around with that lead hand overall. Don't leave it out there too long. Don't throw a lazy jab. Throw feints, you know, go to the body, in my view. You know, make sure that Usyk feels your lead hand early. Make sure that if you're going to go in on me, you're going to get punished. That is not going to be very easy, because if you just let Usyk get inside, you know, he may not be able to exactly stop Tyson Fury, but he might be able to get more points than Tyson Fury if Fury is not able to show that he can back Usyk up. I believe more than likely that he'll be able to, but you never know.
But I'm very confident in my ability, and I'm very confident that I'll beat the guy.
You may laugh now, but I will end this little. End you! End you!
He's on. Yeah.
Wow, to the body. Here comes Fury, stepping into it. What an explosive round for the Gypsy King!
Tyson Fury, who he's looking in great shape right now.
He pulled himself out of a heap. He lost the weight. He got his mind clear. He aligned himself spiritually, as he talks about.
God's given me a second chance at life from being totally gone after Klitschko to coming back. Then I'm happy to just be alive and thinking straight. A lot to be very, very happy for. Very blessed. Truly blessed.
But Tyson Fury can look like $1 million, or he can look pedestrian. And Tyson Fury's ups and downs.
Agreed. Tyson Fury is a guy that fights to the level of his competition. And if you're someone that's been in boxing, or really just in sports in general, there's a lot of people overall that fight to the level of their competition. Like Novak Djokovic, for example, when he's in tennis, there will be certain guys where you take a look at and they're like, that ended up going 5 sets. Why the hell did that end up going 5 sets? And then you take a look at him against one of the best in the world, like Carlos Alcaraz or Daniel Medvedev or Rafael Nadal, and it ends within 3 sets. So it's like a lot of people just fight to the level of their competition, especially within boxing. And Tyson Fury's always been like that. Against Otto Wallin, he had a very troubling time, but then he went in this rematch with Deontay Wilder and had the best performance of his career. So I think Fury's a guy that has to be motivated. And to be honest with you, I think that the Francis Ngannou fight was a blessing in disguise, because it kind of showed him that, you're kind of taking Usyk and some of these other guys a little bit lightly. I think that Fury kind of thought that there was going to be really no more challenges left for him. And I think after that, he got bruised up a little bit by an MMA fighter and kind of embarrassed, to be honest with you. And I think that Fury just ended up winning that fight, but it should have been nowhere near that close, when it came down to it. I think it put him in the right state of mind to say, you know what, I better not underestimate this guy, because this guy is very motivated. He's highly skilled. Yes, he's smaller than me, but if I don't come in here motivated or sharp within this fight, this dude could beat me.
Really leave you a question mark as to what we're going to see when they face off for the undisputed heavyweight championship.
A lot of people think it's all about how hard you train or whatever. I don't think it's about how hard you train or whatever. I think it's about you need to have a natural gift and you need to be mentally strong.
Look at Fury!
Agreed, and intelligent.
Unbelievable upper body movement defensively. 4 punches missed with the head movement.
So Usyk is a remarkable.
Fury, for his size, has excellent head movement. Excellent head movement. A lot of these guys that are from this generation, you can tell that they rely a lot on their size, and you can tell that they never really had the best of head movement, including the Klitschko brothers, including Deontay Wilder, including AJ Anthony Joshua, because most of the opponents that they're going to fight are going to be anywhere from about 6'2" to 6'4", and clearly overall probably not out-lengthen them, and clearly be smaller than them, and have a problem with their reach and their level of power. Fury is the only one, in my view, that moves his head consistently. He has very good head movement, and he's a very good defensive fighter too, and he needs to be, but he needs to sharpen up once again a little bit. Sometimes, keep the right hand up, a little bit more when he's throwing the jab. Sometimes he keeps his hands down a little bit too low, very similar to Muhammad Ali. So he's got to be defensively sharp in this fight.
Talented, resilient fighter, and he's a lefty. But when both guys are at their best, Fury should win.
This is my time, my destiny, my era, and my generation. Facts.
Every shot that's landing right now is a death blow from Fury, and down goes Schwartz.
He's longer. He's that much bigger. He knows how to use his weight. He's developed more power as he's matured in the heavyweights.
By Fury, and down goes Deontay Wilder.
Big shot by Tyson.
He's a more formidable fighter right now, at least on paper, at least in theory. If Fury can hit Usyk as Joshua did, I like Fury's chances here.
I think there's no room for error. There's no room for not.
Fury, in my view, he's going to have to do a mix of fighting behind the jab and making sure that Usyk does not catch up with him. But then when Usyk tries to get close, tie him up, lean on him, bully him within the clinch. Of course, we'll see what type of referee we have for the fight and see how much, he's able to allow that. But on top of that, sometimes on the inside, you're going to have to really show Usyk who's boss. You don't want to stay on the inside, in my view, for too long. But there's going to be times where you're going to have to really bruise Oleksandr Usyk. Kind of overall stay within your range. You may not always want to say super, super close unless you have him up against the ropes, because Usyk is also great at moving it around at certain angles and finding you in disadvantageous positions. But, you know, you want to stay within your range, you know, kind of use your lead hand maybe to keep him at a distance or within the mid-range and launch an uppercut to the midsection, or overall, you know, just hit him in the arms, just hit him overall in the glove. Show Usyk that, listen, I'm coming after you. So I'm not going to make this easy for you, because AJ Anthony Joshua, in my view, what his main mistake was is that, first of all, he wasn't using his lead hand intelligently whatsoever within that fight. And secondly, he just made it way too easy for Usyk. He was constantly within his range. And we all know that AJ doesn't really have the best of head movement nor foot movement when it comes down to it, or foot speed, you know. So he was just making it way too easy. And by the time that Usyk was out countering him, AJ, to be honest with you, he looked scared, or he looked overall completely bewildered. He looked like a guy that really had no answers to this puzzle and was feeling the pressure. You know, we'll see what happens with Tyson Fury.
Any right or any problems? If I can't beat Usyk, I'm no good, clearly. That's your red line. If Tyson Fury can't beat Usyk, Tyson's no good. End of. I'm not going to put...
I would someone agree with you, Mr. Tyson Fury. So we'll see what you do.
Any punches.
We're going to find out, truly, how great Tyson Fury is on that night.
If you're thinking about selling on Amazon FBA, I firmly believe the Echo method is the absolute best way to start making an extra $300, $500.
How great Tyson Fury is on that night.
And there's Usyk. Oh, double left. Usyk is having the fight of his life at the perfect time.
Because of what he can do in the ring, because of his legs, because of his hand speed, because of his punch output, the heart of a champion like Oleksandr Usyk, plus the fact that he is so skilled as a fighter, as a boxer, when he has to dig deep, he's proven that he's capable of doing that.
Usyk says he doesn't fight for money, doesn't fight for fame, he only fights for glory.
There's no secret that Usyk is the real deal. And of course, Fury has proven that he's the real deal over and over and over again.
And look at this as he opens up the round.
Deontay Wilder has some of the worst defense that I've ever seen for a heavyweight fighter in my life. And don't get it wrong, Deontay Wilder, I think that at one point in time, especially when he was undefeated at this time when Fury had fought him, I thought that he was still a clear A-grade level fighter. But like I said, Wilder is kind of like the George Foreman of his era. No, he's not quite as accomplished as what a George Foreman was, or has the resume. And Foreman may have even been a little bit more skilled than Deontay Wilder. But Wilder, once again, he pretty much has one game plan. He's a guy that tries to knock you out, especially with his right hand. If that really doesn't work, especially if you're lengthy and able to get past that, Wilder really doesn't have a whole lot of answers for you. Because he's not great defensively. He does not have great feet, at least in terms of the way that he's able to fight on the back foot. He does not fight on the back foot very well when it comes down to it. And he just doesn't have that much of a varied game. It is what it is.
It's the battle of David and Goliath.
This is a master flash right now. Oh!
Down he goes with the left hand.
Boxing tends to prosper or to contract with the fate of the heavyweight.
It's huge for boxing to have one man, one title, one champion.
By giving the world an undisputed heavyweight champion, the sport will prosper.
On the attack, looking to close the show. Do you believe what we're seeing?
But I believe that we're going to see the best version of Tyson Fury we've seen in a long time against the best version as a heavyweight of Oleksandr Usyk.
I agree with that as well.
This is what makes this division so fascinating.
When the entire world can now say we have one champion, whether it's Tyson Fury or Oleksandr Usyk, that man will have earned it inside the ring. And we haven't had that in the heavyweight division in a very long time.
I'm ready tomorrow. I'm going to knock him out. Come on!
But anyway, that's pretty much about it overall for this. Now, just kind of my final comments on this. Who am I going to predict in order to win the fight? I am going to go with that of Tyson Fury, because I believe that both are extremely skilled fighters. Of course, if you're going to talk about, you know, size for size, who is probably more skilled, you could maybe debate Usyk, but Fury, for his size, is incredibly skilled. And on top of that, I just think that the size is going to be a little bit too much. We'll see what happens. but I predict more than likely that Tyson Fury is going to win this by unanimous decision or by majority decision. I would not be shocked at all if Oleksandr Usyk ended up winning this fight. I'm going to favor Tyson Fury 60-40, but we'll see. Because if Usyk is able to get on the inside, and maybe if Tyson Fury doesn't have any answers, it of course could be a little bit of a problem. But we'll see, because Fury seems to handle a multitude of styles pretty decently well. When you talk about AJ Anthony Joshua, he kind of has a little bit of a problem, especially with guys that are a little bit smaller and quicker. That's why he was so uncomfortable against Andrew Ruiz and Joseph Parker and Oleksandr Usyk. He was very uncomfortable in every single one of those fights, and that's why every single one of those fights either ended up in him losing or going to decision when it came down to it. But Fury's a guy that can kind of handle, usually whatever style is coming at him, especially if he takes the fight seriously. So what would my advice be to Tyson Fury? Once again, use your lead hand constantly within this fight. Pepper him with that jab very early on. Do whatever you have to do to try to get that lead hand in there. Of course, don't make it obvious, but you're going to have to make sure that Usyk feels that lead hand very early, because if he's not threatened by a lead hand very early, and if he starts getting inside on the range, he's quicker than you, he's smaller than you, he has faster feet than you, and Fury doesn't have the slowest feet that I've ever seen, but Usyk is going to have quicker feet. He's just smaller. It is what it is, and he's very athletic and he's very quick. So Fury's going to have to really pepper him with that jab, tighten up the defense, make sure that at least one of your hands are up, especially when you're throwing that lead hand, and then you throw that right hand, turn over with the punch. Don't just throw it, overall from your shoulder, and then keep the right side of your face completely open for an overhand left. Be careful, because Usyk is, going to be looking for that. On top of that, go to the body. If Usyk starts pushing you a little bit too far up against the ropes, you're going to have to push him forward back. You're going to have to get on the inside. You're going to have to be rough with him. You're going to have to bully him. You're going to have to lean on him and make sure that some of his stamina is drained, when it comes down to it, in order, to make sure that he does not outlast you. And Fury, of course, does have great stamina, but the size, of course, is going to be a little bit of an advantage. Let's see how Usyk can possibly handle that. But Fury, it's going to be interesting to see how he handles Usyk in the clinch, because Usyk is a little bit smaller. He may not be quite as easy to grab as someone as what like a Deontay Wilder or Vladimir Klitschko would have been. So it's going to be a little bit interesting here, but that would be my advice for Tyson Fury. You have to show dominance early on. You have to really, pepper him with that jab. You have to kind of hurt Usyk a little bit, to be quite honest with you. I think that if you hurt Usyk, or if you go to the body, especially early, and if you show him, listen, this reach and this weight is for real, you're not just going to bully me, in the ring. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to come forward, and you're going to try to come to my body, and you're going to try to work over my jab and wait for me to overextend. That's not going to happen. I'm a lot smarter than what you think that I am, and I'm going to throw feints, and I'm going to make sure that, that you're not going to see what's coming. Then I think overall that Tyson Fury should be able to win the fight. Now, what would my advice be to Usyk? Don't bite on every single feint that Tyson Fury is going to throw. We know that Tyson Fury loves to throw a lot of feints. Look out for the right hand. A lot of the times, Fury, he has a little bit of a problem with leaving the right side of his face open when he does throw that right hand. If you get close enough, you can avoid it. You can twist to the left, and catch him possibly with an overhand left, then possibly get him up against the ropes, get some body shots, But it's going to be interesting to see how Usyk will handle the clinch, because you don't want Fury to kind of get within the clinch, and Usyk might have to really use his feet the most amount that he's ever used his feet before. And he has excellent feet, excellent footwork, just like Vasily Lomachenko, but he's going to have to kind of get outside of that range, because if Fury gets him in the exchanges, in the clinch, and if he gets him with punches, I'm not quite sure how Usyk is going to react. We'll see. He could get Fury with certain punches on the inside, but we'll see, So work overall through that, of course, keep a dominant lead hand, start off to the body a little bit to Tyson Fury, because he is going to be taller than you by several inches. So you don't always want to be head hunting with Tyson Fury. That doesn't mean never go after the head, but focus on the body, I think, a little bit first, and eventually the head will come. It might freak out Tyson Fury a little bit, at least hopefully, So just watch out for it, and don't let Tyson Fury bully you. If Tyson Fury is going to come forward on you, and if he clearly is trying to show his size and power, you're going to have to fight back a little bit, and in my view, push him forward to say, you're not going to bully me. I know that you're a little bit bigger than me, but, I'm not afraid of you. And I can get you to the body. I'm quicker than you. Potentially I'm smarter than you. At least that's what Usyk is going to have to try to prove. And, you're not just going to push me back. This is going to be something to where I'm going to make you work, to where it's going to be a little bit more within the mid-range or the back foot, and that you're going to have to counter my speed. So in my view, that's what both fighters are going to have to do. We'll see what ends up happening. I am predicting that Tyson Fury will more than likely win this fight by either unanimous decision or majority decision. But you never know. I could also clearly see Usyk winning this fight as well. You just never know. And on top of that, I need to see where Tyson Fury is at this point in time in his career, because I really have no idea. He is getting older. I believe that he's going to turn 36 years old this year, and he has had some wear and tear on him, especially after the Deontay Wilder fights. Could it be overall that maybe he's a little bit past his best and Usyk beats him because clearly Tyson Fury doesn't have the same level of foot speed or speed anymore? Because Fury, in my view, is going to need that in order to win this fight. He's just too big of a target to hit, and on top of that, Usyk just covers too well in order for Tyson Fury to beat him, and he doesn't have a great level of speed anymore, both with his feet and his hands. So we'll see what happens. But anyways, that's pretty much about it for today. I am predicting Tyson Fury to win this fight, assuming that he is the same fighter. We'll see what ends up happening, but I'm very excited for the fight. And I may potentially go live for this, but I'm not really quite sure. We'll see. But anyways, that's pretty much it. That's my breakdown. We'll see what happens. I'll talk to you all later.